I'm waiting. There we go.
Hey everyone, Michael Pickens here, Vice Chair of the We the People Washington with Tony Kelly, our chair, and we have a very special guest coming to us from all the way in Spokane, Washington. His name is Christopher Armitage. He is the writer behind the Existentialist Republic on Substack. Make sure you go check that out. He's a former federal law enforcement officer for the Air Force for 8 years. He is a criminal justice researcher and a journalist. Christopher, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, today we're going to talk a little bit about ICE and federal overreach. I just want you to kick it off because you were in Minneapolis last week. You were there for 72 hours. You're way familiar with this stuff more than we are. So please just start talking about it.
Sure. Well, I consider myself a pretty serious defender of the Constitution. That was what part of the oath when you joined the military, and whether it was serving as a law enforcement officer or deploying as part of Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Iraqi Freedom, carrying 1 to 3 guns, every day for a year like this. That was the work of my life, in the military, and then after, advocating for the rights that were enshrined in our founding documents. And so going to Minneapolis, especially as a former law enforcement officer, was a powerful experience. I saw some things there that really made me feel like right now the Constitution's dead and maybe we can bring it back, because I saw people who would just be standing on a sidewalk and singing a silly, insulting song and then get tackled by 5 people, and nobody would hear from that person for 3 days while they were kept in a cage without being charged and without medical care, and then just released without charges. And a lot of just every day, that kind of stuff. I had officers scream a bunch of expletives at me and scream "Make America Great Again" because I said, "Please don't shoot me," because they were grabbing their guns because I was filming, and I said they started walking towards me and saying, "Is that a threat?" And I said, "I'm definitely not trying to threaten you by saying please don't shoot me," and they continued to aggress, and so I had to just be the adult in that situation. And I just saw that like 20 times a day while I was in Minneapolis. And so this is much bigger than just like one person getting shot in the face, and whether a vehicle is a weapon, which it is from a law enforcement perspective. But the state of the Constitution and what's happening in Minneapolis and in other places, to me, you can't care about the Constitution and approve of what's happening there.
Absolutely. So when you say you saw this 20 times a day, you're talking about ICE agents just arresting people for being there, singing silly songs, just offending them?
Oh yeah, well they would even chase them, like a protester would be on the sidewalk and scream an insult like "F you" or that kind of thing, and then the agents would then chase that person. And like there was someone who he was just waving a sign and like screaming, "Get out of our city, we don't want you here." And they chased him down, and they say arrest you. What they mean is beat you, and not provide you medical care. I saw them have people who were like bleeding profusely, and people on the scene would say like, "I'm a medic, please let me help them," and they would say, "No, we have other people coming to help," and so they're denying that person medical care. Activists while I was there got driven off the road. We got a call. We were part of like the ICE response of like video recording for evidence. We went to this one place where just a half hour before, the agents were going door to door in an apartment complex, and some of the doors were kicked in and some weren't, and we're not sure what made them decide which it was okay to kick in and which wasn't. And but it definitely wasn't okay or in accordance with the Fourth Amendment, and same for the First Amendment. You have freedom of speech. You're not impeding an investigation by hurting their feelings. They are not welcome in that city by the people that live there, and it is a disgusting, shameful mark on. I mean, I'm going to use that language because I watched people have their rights trampled, the rights that I proudly signed up for and defended for 8 years, and was even, like I said, but worked in corrections. Like I walked the walk.
Can you go back through that? Because I know we talked about that just before we went live, but just so that people don't think that you're some crazy ass liberal who's going out there and just trying to get in the way, tell us your background.
Yeah, absolutely. I spent 8 years in the United States Air Force. I was security forces. I deployed twice. I did presidential security. My master's degree is in Homeland Security. For my capstone research project, I did research on using emerging technology to combat human trafficking. My undergrads are criminal justice and psychology. I was a corrections officer for 1 year and then decided that wasn't for me. And so I care about the Constitution, and just the founders would not have agreed that you can just because you hurt somebody's feelings and they have a badge, they can beat you up and throw you in a cage. And the Constitution is also supposed to protect everybody in this country. And as soon as you allow certain groups the Fourth Amendment exists to protect everybody, not just to protect immigrants. But if you can just have unwarranted searches and seizures, or throw anybody who says something insulting about the king, into a cage, then you don't really have a free country. You don't have liberty. You don't have justice. And that's what I care about, is freedom, liberty, justice, the Constitution. Like, we have the things we need to have a good country and to have the freest, country on earth. And I was there on the ground, and if I had acted like that in a law enforcement role, and none of the police officers acted that way, by the way. The Minneapolis Police Department was entirely professional in how they did their job, and there is no world where I saw ICE officers, they'd walk up to somebody on the street, grab their phone, throw the phone, and shove the person onto the ground. That is assault. They should be in handcuffs for that. That person committed no crime, and I just don't know how anybody can, in good faith, defend that behavior.
Right.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I see people defending it all day long. It drives me nuts. And the door-to-door thing really caught my attention. And so I commented on it, saying, the minute that you can justify that for any reason, you have destroyed everything. And the fact that people are justifying it, and I would ask them, so they come knock on your door, and you're going to let them on in? Come on, search my house and I'll give you all my papers. I'm like, that's what you want? It just blows my mind. My dad actually met somebody from Minnesota this weekend who left Minnesota for a few days to get a reprieve because they live in that area. And they said that they can't really, going out into public, like the people that live there now carry their passports with their IDs, because your ID is no longer good enough to prove that you're a US citizen. And so they're going out with their IDs, and they're seeing an influx of people that are not even from their state being brought in to cause chaos. Did you witness anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. People would walk into the crowds, and there was a guy who he walked in and he was completely covered head to toe and disguised, and he just burned a US flag while somebody else filmed, and then they both walked away in separate directions, and people tried to follow that person, and he wouldn't say who he was or identify himself in any way. And this is the police state. This is the thing that we've been warned about for so long, that, when the Patriot Act got passed, they're like, this is what we're headed towards. As soon as you start letting them look at everybody's information, like, our founders didn't create privacy because they wanted people to get away with crime. They understood that to have a free and fair nation, your property is yours. You are sovereign. It is you, the state, and the federal government. And that is the hierarchy that puts the maximum power in your hands, because we want the keys to power to be in as many hands as possible. Because when you have a king, you have a monarchy, the keys to power, it's in one person's hand. And we want the key to power to be in every person's hand.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I took a look at your website, and you had talked about, you have actually quite a few articles on soft secession. Can you discuss that?
Sure. Soft secession as a concept started as more of a companion or synonym for a term, uncooperative federalism, which is basically states saying, if we disagree with what you're doing, we are not going to provide you with resources or aid or even information that could help further your cause. And soft secession is I made it more than just a synonym, because to me, soft secession would be more equivalent to building parallel structures at the state level, whether that be social safety nets or anti-corruption measures or pro-democracy measures or civil liberties measures that go above and beyond what the federal government does, in a way where you don't rely on the federal government should they be taken over by people you disagree with. That's the greatest power we have. Is when I first got involved with the Libertarian Party years ago, even though I'm not affiliated with any party now, but I remember really being impressed with that idea that half the country is worried every 4 years that the other half is going to be in charge. And I don't want to draw a false equivalence, because I have my own personal beliefs about that, and I don't think that's the same. But what I advocate for is the idea that I want Texas to run Texas how they want, California to run California how they want, and most people agree with that in both places. And so soft secession is this idea of saying we can return our management and our policy to something that works better for our state, rather than just the whims of the federal government every 4 years. And I've also recently, I'm going to be submitting to some different journals, but I've brought a new term into play. So uncooperative federalism is the we're just not going to help you. It's the equivalent of showing up, quiet quitting at work. You show up and you don't help with anything, but you wait for them to fire you. Soft secession is, hey, I'm going to have a side hustle. So I show up to work, I don't do anything, and also I have a side hustle. So oppositional federalism is the next level. If the federal government becomes tyrannical and no longer respects the Constitution or civil liberties or the sovereignty of states or individuals, the next level is we are going to pass criminal policies to arrest for corruption. So if a U.S. senator commits a crime, well, if the domestic violence, U.S. senator commits domestic violence, the local police handle that, not the FBI. Why should bribery be any different? And so that's one example of oppositional federalism, is we are going to actively take power away from you because you can't be trusted with it.
One example that comes to mind is recent cannabis laws, right? So there's 20 states that have legalized cannabis, opposition to the federal government that has it completely illegal, right? So there's states have basically said, yeah, screw the federal government. We're creating our own rules around cannabis, regardless of what the federal government has. Schedule 1, I guess it's Schedule 3 now. But, does that kind of fall in line?
Yeah, well, that actually gets into a really important conversation about the term nullification. Some folks might know about jury nullification, where a jury can say, this is the law, but we're not going to convict this person, because actually a jury can just decide whatever they want, regardless of the law. And all the jury could agree to not convict somebody, even if they broke the law for whatever reasons they choose. And the same can work at the state level. So if the federal government is overreaching and doing things that are wrong, states can just say, make us follow your rules, or we're going to do what we want to do. Good luck enforcing it. And so that actually rolls into another piece of oppositional federalism, is tax escrow policy. So Republicans during the Obama administration in several states proposed laws to order all employers in that state, including Washington, to divert taxes to an escrow account for holding until constitutional standards were restored. They felt that the Obama administration was not meeting constitutional standards, so they're not following their half of the social contract, so we need to respond nonviolently in a way that puts pressure on them. Now, I've written some more model legislation with the Existentialist Republic team that promotes red line laws, trigger laws. So what is the line that if the federal government crosses it, we have our own tax escrow legislation? And I think every state should have that conversation. Like, hey, if you send unwelcome federal troops into our voting places, states are in charge of voting. If you nullify our elections, if you send troops in, if you try to cancel the elections, we have to take substantial measures. That's the rational thing to do. It's not reactionary. And so that's an example, like you're saying, nullification. It's like, this is against the rules, but come and enforce them then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. All those things I had never thought of before.
I got one more. One more I'd love your feedback on, Tony. This is means testing. This is more model legislation, means testing corporate welfare. So right now, if you want to get SNAP, you want to get disability, any of these really valuable social safety nets that I know I value, I'm glad that they exist. You want to get these, you need to show that there's a need. If you make too much money, you don't get them. Okay. Well, we don't really do this with corporations. So right now we have corporations that are spending, they receive tax dollars in the form of write-offs and subsidies and grants, and then they use our tax dollars to fund politicians and political campaigns and lobbyists. And so all this says is if you have enough money to influence elections, then you do not need any taxpayer dollars. And that's a voluntary thing. It is completely legal. There's no nullification involved because this is a voluntary benefit. And you're making a voluntary decision to engage in politics rather than let the people handle that. And you can make that choice if you want to, but then you don't get tax dollars if you have that extra income.
That's brilliant. Brilliant. Because that I would consider a form of corruption, right? Like they're taking our taxpayer dollars to give back to the politicians to continue to make the laws that are going to benefit them. And it's a whole messed up cycle.
Yeah, well, and any politician who's going to look at you with a straight face and say, who gives me money will not influence my decision. Yeah. That's a deal breaker right there.
Yeah. I don't know who, and honestly, if you think about that, even in your personal life, right? I mean, like if somebody loans you money, you're kind of beholden to that person. So, choose who you're going to take that money from because it really does matter.
Absolutely. Well, so actually, what's really fascinating? The Roberts Court does not value originalism. It's a lie. So one example I'd like to tell about that is the snuff box story. So Benjamin Franklin was given a snuff box as a gift from the King of France, and it had, I think, like 24 diamonds in it. And he was given this really luxurious gift, and the other founders said, this is not okay. You cannot accept this gift and let it maybe be more favorable. You might be more favorable towards France later. And so they put something like the emoluments clause that is very clear cut into the Constitution. It is not anything which ever creates any possibility of influence is unacceptable. And we have gone so far past that standard. I would love if we had a Supreme Court that was here for free speech and was here for the Fourth Amendment and the 10th Amendment and the Second Amendment, like all these things, the emoluments clause. And that's, more amendments would be great, but I think, gosh, if we just defended the ones that we have, we'd be all right.
That's what I was going to say. I'm like, we need to get back to the ones that we have before we start adding. It cracks me up when people are like, oh, they can't do that. Like, like with ICE, like some of the things that they're doing with detention and stuff like that. Like it's in the law. That is the way it's supposed to work. We just haven't worked it that way in so long. And I don't have an example, so forgive me. But, I see those things often in so many different places. It's like, let's not come up with new laws. Let's pay attention to the ones that we have and enforce those.
Completely agree. And so I have someone who I'm very close with, and they are half Afghani, half Afghani, and then half Jewish. They're Afghani-sized Muslim. Very fascinating. And wow. And their Afghani father is a police officer in New Jersey, and so really fascinating background. And and let me tell you. The Constitution was not respected for this person when he was younger, because the fact is, if you can just tell a cop they're an asshole and then they can punch you in the face and charge you with disorderly when you weren't doing anything wrong, your constitutional rights have been violated. And if they never get in trouble for that, if there are no consequences or accountability, then that is tyranny. That is what our founders did not want. That is, we were supposed to be fighting against that. That is, we want to wipe that out. It's so weird to me as a former law enforcement officer who misses the job sometimes. Like really, I actually do. Like when you're doing that job and you're just helping people, they're calling you out, they're in trouble and you're running towards it. It's like your brain is like, cool, I'm doing good stuff. My life matters. But when you cannot be above the law, the whole argument that qualified immunity or the supremacy clause would protect people. That's the thing is like, the Renee Good thing, I have my feelings on that, But we don't need to argue about that, because every day you can find videos of people just speaking, and the words they say get them thrown in a cell. And that is not okay. It's not. And
my dad is actually, he spent 50 years, almost just shy of 50 years with the military. He was a sergeant major. And, you know, when he talks about people, he knows everybody, right? So, you know, he served with Petraeus. He's met George Bush. He's, you know, all these things. And he said to me the other day that he will not come on my show, on this show, because he is concerned with the backlash, because he gets phone calls from people if he's too outspoken on something. And he's not incredibly outspoken. And, you know, and he's retired obviously now. And it's very sad to me that they can't, you know, the people that are in the military now, if they speak out at all, they're getting demoted, and that's not being talked about. And what other agencies is this happening in? You know, because this is running rampant, and it's because people are too scared to lose everything because they decided to say something negative about the president. And that to me is a violation of our free speech too. When the president had so much power that he can control people and stop them from speaking out and saying when something is wrong, that is just as wrong.
I completely agree. I really do. And that, you know, when you're going to fight with your values and for things like, you know, our constitutional rights, like that means at times that you're going to be saying like, hey, sometimes the people who do bad, like people who I hate, I still want them to have free speech, and you're going to ruffle feathers and it's going to be tough. And I don't know. I just, you know, I really appreciate you sharing that though about your father, because that's really gets to the heart of like the personal toll and risk for standing up against people who will just abuse their positions of power, whether it is a police officer or a president or anyone in between.
Yeah. He actually, they asked him to be a correspondent on the news when he retired. Like he's been asked to do. My dad's pretty amazing, but he's been asked to do so many things. But he said that he would not go on and do that job because he can look at them and know that they're flat out lying, and he could not go on with a good conscience and say the things that he would have to say in support of something that he doesn't. He said it stressed him out so bad that he couldn't do it. And then I realized I was doing the same thing to him because he wanted to come on and he wants to be able to speak about this stuff and speak about it in the way that he and I talk on the phone, and he can't. So it's really disheartening. And so you have this huge, I'm talking there's thousands of them, ex-military who want to speak out and they're too scared to.
Yeah, and it's clear they're coming after folks for it. Conversation I'll have here, but I'm always careful about how I approach it, is legal gun owners in places where it is legal for them to open carry, like that, it's really tough seeing the "don't tread on me" crowd be like, cool, as long as they're treading on the people I don't like, you know?
Oh,
come on.
Oh, yeah. I get called everything from a liberal to MAGA to racist I've been called everything. And right now it's really driving me crazy because it's a lot, because I don't agree with either side and I can see the faults in both. And so it's so disheartening to me to see all of these faults in both sides, and nobody is stopping to take a minute and evaluate what they're actually seeing, and to understand that, the ICE isn't 100% right. The protesters are not 100% right. There is things happening that are wrong, but there's something with our identity right now where if you say that my side's bad or my side isn't 100% right, then you're giving up everything that you believe in, which just, it bothers me.
No, that makes complete sense. To me, it's really difficult because the government, they have a lot of power, and we are the people, and there's, like I was saying about like the sovereignty, where we have it reversed, where, you know, the people are supposed to be the ones with the most rights. And it's like police officers, having done the job, they are they are not supposed to be able to just talk to people however they want. And that, I don't know, it's tough seeing people defend that while also claiming that they care about the Constitution, because I care more about their rights than they care about the rights of, I'm going to defend their rights while they're fighting to defend the people who break these rules that we're supposed to, I mean, the Tea Party, all these things in this country, give me liberty or give me death. And now they're like, well, if you hurt that officer's feelings, then I think it's okay for them to beat the crap out of you and drag you away. I mean, that's, you just shouldn't have said something that hurt their feelings.
Isn't that funny for them to be the ones talking about feelings? It cracks me up. Right? Like, oh, my poor feelings. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm really proud of like the coalition that my work has brought together, because let me tell you something. I have some people who are so far left and some people who are like pretty conservative in a lot of ways. And but that's the thing, is like the left-right dichotomy is not what it is. I don't believe in like being in the middle, because you're just kind of defining yourself by the other sides, right? Like my feelings on taxes don't have anything to do with my feelings on guns, don't have anything to do with my feelings on abortion. These are all different things. You should decide them for yourself. And also the thing that unites this broad coalition of my audience is we want to like respect the rights of other people. We want to end corruption. We want to make sure that children, like people, don't starve. I think like so many of these things are so obvious, and the politicians and the media are just desperate to make us hate each other instead of actually solving these problems.
No, you have it totally right. That is 100% what I believe, and that is exactly why I decided to actually do what we're doing, is because I 100% believe that there is, especially in Washington State, like we're so blue, but we're not. Like if we could just barrel through all of the hate and make people see that everybody thinks that homelessness is a problem. Let's just start there. Or everybody thinks that we're being taxed too much. It's like, if we could just bring everybody together to see the light, it would be really nice. And I think that we can do that. I really do. Because I think that we're so much more together than we are apart.
You're speaking my language. I love this. I completely agree. And just a quick note, I'm going to have to hop off in a sec, but non-tax revenue is something I am just trying to talk about everywhere I can. And there's a city council member who I like, but I swear to God, he rolled his eyes when I mentioned it, because he's like, well, if we want to do that, then we need to raise taxes. And I said, I'm trying to not mention personal details about him that would give away who he is, but he has a good education, so he should know better. When I say non-tax revenue, there's ways to make money besides taxing the public that can benefit the public, like the public bus system. I do not want our buses to be run by a private corporation. I like how it is now, and it actually brings in income for the community. And its goal isn't to profit; it's to bring a good service. And if they have revenue, it cycles right back into the community, not into a CEO's pocket. Awesome. Love that. We can do more things like that and benefit the public without raising taxes on people, because it's like I do want you to keep your paycheck. That's fair. And then there's more of a voluntary engagement with the revenue streams of the government based on which services you're engaging with. And that's a back and forth. It's a whole process, but there's this dichotomy of, it's just like tax or no tax. There's other ways to make money. So that's kind of a pet thing for me.
Yeah, you would actually love what what my guy's doing here in the legislature. He's on the transportation board, and he actually wants to redo our fuel system and save on our fuel for the ferries, so that we can then turn over that savings onto fixing them. And that's what you're talking about, right? Yep. Look, it's, first of all, there's this attitude. I completely agree. There's this attitude that you want to run everything like a business. And having worked for many private corporations, 5% of them are run well. Most of them, it's quarter to quarter. They are just like, how do we pump up our numbers? How do we give people a worse product so that we can make more profit in the short term? And let's get worse ingredients for our food. There are good companies. Like,
Darn Tough socks. I don't get any sponsorship money from them, but they have a lifetime warranty on their socks. That's insane. But not everybody runs like Darn Tough socks. So we shouldn't just be like, give me a CEO to run things. But things where it's like, look, let's just look at how we can provide a better service and work money back in. It's beautiful, and I love to hear that. And I want us to do another conversation where you can tell me about more of that cool stuff.
Yes, this is great. You've definitely got to come on again, because this has been fantastic. And I know that you got to run, but I think we've been talking over Michael. Actually, did you have something that you wanted to say?
Sorry.
Well, we're almost at the 30-minute mark, so this interview
Sorry, Michael,
is almost done. But no, I just wanted to say, like, the whole "Don't Tread on Me" crowd. It's like back in 2014 when I wrote my book, I created the "Don't Tread on Anyone" flag.
Nice.
And that's the one that everyone should ascribe to. Like, don't tread on anyone. And see, the "Don't Tread on Me" crowd. It's like, yeah, I get that, but it's like it's very selfish. You know what I mean? Don't tread on me, but I can tread on you. So we need to just change that whole mentality in our society, is not to tread on anyone in any circumstance for whatever. Leave everyone alone.
Amen.
We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this again, and I'm gonna talk a lot less, and I want to hear more from you guys.
Oh no, I love this. This is great. All right. So I guess we'll end it there. I will get a link to your site in the comments so that people can get there. And thank you again. This was wonderful. I really appreciate you coming on here, Chris.
Thank you so much for having me. This really was a pleasure. You guys are awesome. Thanks for the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. So really quick before we all get off, remember, everyone watching this on the live stream and the recording, if you like what we're doing, please donate WTPWA.com. We are continuing to spend money on Facebook ads, promoting these reels, getting our ideas out there, having great guests like Christopher Armitage on the show. So please continue to support us. And for those of you who have donated, thank you so much.
Yeah, awesome. Have a great night.
Take care.